Democrat Senator Van Hollen of Maryland has traveled down to El Salvador, and he has demanded the return of Abrego Garcia. And boy, did Democrats walk right into this one. The DOJ had the evidence. They had the documents. They have damning information on this man who is reportedly now a violent member of MS-13 who mercilessly beat his wife. Allegedly. We don't know exactly how it all went down. But not only have they released documents showing how they determined he was a gang member in MS-13, but also what was released in the press was domestic violence petitions from his own wife. So here you got a guy who was with MS-13 gang members, identified as one, wearing their clothing. And they really walked into this one. It's sort of blowing up in their face now after the DOJ released this information to back up their case. They also had the press conference where they had a woman whose daughter was murdered by an illegal Venezuelan migrant. All this while Democrats are lying, claiming this guy, Abrego Garcia, was here legally. He was not. And saying that he was a Maryland man. Now, that's crazy. The Maryland man psyop. All the media is marching in lockstep, saying a Maryland man who was legally here was wrongly sent to this prison. It's a lie. An illegal immigrant with a deportation order was deported to his home country. So I would like to thank Donald Trump for bringing Abrego Garcia home. Means a lot. We're going to talk about that. Plus, Judge Boasberg in this case is saying the Trump admin is in contempt. And now they're threatening, I guess, to arrest these individuals. And then, man, it's kind of crazy how much news there is today. Letitia James has been referred to the DOJ for criminal prosecution for mortgage fraud that took place at the exact same time she was alleging Donald Trump was engaged in civil fraud to secure loans at better rates. Basically, the exact same thing she accused him of. And based on the fraud that she's alleged to have committed, she would have voided her position in New York as the AG. So it's a crazy story. We're going to talk about all that, my friends, and more. Before we get started, we got a great sponsor. It is Kalshi, my friends. Kalshi is the first and only legal prediction market in the U.S. After years of working with the federal government, Kalshi got regulatory approval from the CFTC to offer a new asset class, quote, event contracts, which allow traders to take positions on whether a future event will happen or not. You can bet and trade on anything from who will win the Grammys or Oscars, will the U.S. buy Greenland, how high will Bitcoin get this year, and more. Kalshi was the first place to legally trade and bet on the elections. We also launched sports in all 50 states recently and went live on Robinhood. So Kalshi event contracts are being actively traded on Robinhood. Very cool. People use these markets to make money on their opinion, hedge risks, or just look at the market's odds to understand the chance of some event happening. These markets tend to be quite accurate because it's people putting money on the line trying to predict what will happen. We call this, my friends, wisdom of the crowd. Not always so wise, but sometimes they get it right. Actually, it's a tendency. Whether it's the election, inflation, interest rates, or nearly any topic, prediction markets tend to be extremely accurate in forecasting the future. I think they actually nailed the election. Go check them out. See what the likelihood is that conservatives will win in the Canadian elections this year or other similar events. Go to kalshi.com/Timcast and get 10 bucks when you trade $100. Once again, that's kalshi.com/Timcast, KALSHI. Check it out. And shout out. We appreciate the sponsor of the show. Don't forget to go to castbrew.com. Maybe pick up some Focus with Mr. Bocus. Or how about some Misty Mountains coffee? It's the best coffee. Everybody agrees. And we got Phil dressed like Santa Claus right here. Maybe you want to buy that one. And also become a member of our Discord at timcast.com, the Culture War live show, May 3rd. May not be sold out. I'm not entirely sure, but we are going to bring up you guys from our Discord server to the debate stage at the table with us live. Now, we want to do this every week. The pilot is May 3rd, and we're hoping that we will get them up weekly. The plan right now is monthly until we hammer all the details. If this first event goes really well, it will be a weekly event Saturday nights in the D.C. area where you as members get to submit your position on debate and then get invited up to debate. Think Kill Tony meets Jubilee. It's going to be fun. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Donald J. Trump.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to be here, right? Nobody does a better job than Tim Pool, and he has a beautiful hat. I have to say that. A lot of people give him a lot of, you know what, for wearing the hat, but I think it's a nice hat. I think it fits you very well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Who are you really?
My name's Shawn Farash. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. And I've been looking forward to this since it was set up. So it's going to be a fun night.
I wonder if there's somebody just passively listening to the audio version and they're like, wait, what? Mary's hanging out.
Took me by surprise. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Morgan. You can usually find me on Pop Culture Crisis here at Timcast, but I'm happy to be back.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here we go. From the post-millennial, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, arrested in 2019 while meeting with MS-13 members, entered U.S. illegally in 2012. Yo, the things that they dropped on this guy. His rank of, how do you say that? Chequeo? I don't even know what that is. And his name was Chele. I want to show you this. We have this from Libs of TikTok. This video. Democrat U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen is in El Salvador demanding that President Bukele do the right thing and release an MS-13 gang member who was, quote, illegally abducted. Let's roll tape.
Well, I'm asking President Bukele to... Okay. I'm asking President Bukele, under his authority as president of El Salvador, to do the right thing and allow Mr. Abrego Garcia to walk out of a prison, a man who's charged with no crime, convicted of no crime, and who was illegally abducted from the United States.
Illegally abducted. All right, well, let's roll, ladies and gentlemen. Aside from that headline, we got this one. Kilmar Abrego Garcia allegedly physically abused his wife years before his deportation. So this is just so stupid. I can't believe we're still on the story. Everybody who's listening, who watches the show, you know exactly what this guy is. You know exactly what the DOJ has been saying about him and why he was deported. Let me just add on top of this. Withholding of deportation, that's what was currently in place from the courts. It is conditional and temporary. It can be voided if the circumstances in the home country of an individual have changed, thus the threat no longer exists. Fact. Since Abrego Garcia came to the United States, Nayib Bukele has cleaned up El Salvador to the point where it is one of the safest countries in the Western Hemisphere, if not the safest, he says it is. Clearly, there is no longer a threat to this man, and he can go home. So it sounds like the only error was that they needed what's called a USCIS interview to determine whether or not he could return home, but they did not do that. Oh, now the Trump administration has argued is that because of the Alien Enemies Act, withholding of deportation does not apply to terrorists under the AEA. And two different judges determined this guy was a member of the MS-13 gang. Now, here's what they got. The documents have been released. And it's not just, they say, a criminal informant. They actually mention that Abrego Garcia was found with other, look at this, a member of the Prince George's County gang unit MS-13 intelligence and squad have encountered, how do you say that? Christian Hernandez Romero on multiple occasions. He has an extensive criminal history for multiple assaults, dangerous weapons, etc. And he was hanging out with these guys. So the simple version of the story is when the cops picked him up, they saw him with guys they knew to be MS-13. He was wearing MS-13 gang clothes. Another informant identified him as a member of MS-13 and his rank and name used by the gang. And this is the reason why two different judges said, yep, looks pretty likely this guy's a member of the gang. Now, he should have been deported. He had a deportation order. It was upheld by an appellate court. They didn't deport him. The dude was skipping his hearings. He didn't file for asylum. And for this, he gets deported. Not only that, there was an order of protection that his wife filed. And now she's claiming he's the best husband ever. Jesse Waters on Fox News is saying he was closed fist beating his wife. I don't know how true that is or what happened in this hearing. But let me just say, Democrats walked into this one like Sideshow Bob stepping on a rake.
Best part about this is that Democrats are actually going to El Salvador asking President Bukele to release essentially, gang members. I'm not going to get into the whether or not they're terrorists, but asking them to release gang members that were in the United States illegally. There is nothing that I like better than when the Democrats take the side of the absolute bad guys and on an 80-20 issue. And they continue to do it. I think they should send more people down there. They should send AOC down there. Bernie and AOC could go down there and have another rally like they've been doing. Get them both together, have a big old rally. All the MS-13 guys can sit there and cheer for AOC, and I would love it. It'd be the best. If they're gonna take this side, I mean, it's only good for Republicans and for Trump.
Mary, are you happy now that this evil man has been removed from our direct vicinity? Because we live right here in Maryland.
But why are you asking me specifically?
Well, because you are
I'm a
a
West Virginian.
You are, yeah, but we're like 5 minutes away from Maryland, and you are but a short and tiny white woman who fears...
I am a Marylander, actually, originally.
Ah, you admit it.
So it does make me proud of my state to not have this gang member in it anymore.
Good.
The story about his wife is kind of crazy, claiming
beat
that,
her?
claiming that their marriage grew stronger over time, and like, he's a good man at the end of the day, but she's like literally a battered housewife with like Stockholm syndrome. And they listed one of the gang members he was meeting with went by the name Bimbo. I don't know why that was his moniker in the gang, but I think she probably saw the name Bimbo pop up on his text messages and was like, who the fuck is this? And that's probably what precipitated the fight.
I love
Well,
it.
what do you think, man?
Well, I think it's great that he's out of here. The country's a safer place. But I think it's just par for the course for the left now, that no matter what Donald Trump does, if he says water is wet, it's dry, right? If I endorse oxygen, we love oxygen, right? They're going to hold their breath. That's what's going to happen. I mean, it's you live by TDS, you die by TDS. So now they're taking the side of someone who has been designated a terrorist or a member of a terrorist organization. These are the same people who said that the J6ers were terrorists, right? That parents at school board meetings were terrorists, bad people. But now they're saying that this guy, he's just a misunderstood Maryland father.
The Democrats are, and to your point, yes, they're taking the side of they do the if Donald Trump likes it, then we're against it. But not only that, they're on the side of people that are firebombing Tesla dealerships. They're on the side of Luigi Mangione, who's a murderer. The Democrats literally cannot help but say, we like evil.
Yeah.
That's straight up where they're at. And there is a meme portion to that. Taylor Lorenz came out and said, in America, we've always, we stand bad guys, blah, 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 blah. I mean, even so much as to the normies. Now, I know that the chat's going to have a conniption fit about me saying this, but to normies, Hamas are the bad guys, right? They look at Israel and they're like, Israel is America's ally, and that means Hamas is the bad guys. But the Democrats are all waving Palestinian flags.
Yeah.
Literally, the Democrats have gotten themselves into a position where they're just on the side of bad guys.
Every
I'd also
time.
like to add, sorry.
No,
I just wanted to add, they're calling him Maryland Man in all of these sub-headlines in every single article. And it just reminds me of the game that they play. Every single time it's something about black crime, they're called teens or youths. And similarly, they're going to continue referring to him as Maryland Man because, I don't know, he was here.
Yep, because they're betting on regular people passively watching the news, and they've said a Maryland man who was legally here. None of it is true. He was here illegally. A withholding of deportation is not legal status. It's temporary protected status. It's not legal status. And what they're doing is they're saying he was legally here. We don't mean he was granted legal status. We're meaning that he was here with a temporary stay, meaning it was legal that he was here. It's like, okay, it's conditional.
What claim would he have to asylum anyway?
He didn't. He got denied.
Okay.
And he said in that police report that originally that 2019 I-213 form that he did not fear going back to El Salvador. So he when you claim asylum, you're being persecuted. You're running
What
from.
What was his original claim to asylum then?
I don't think did he ever claim it?
Yeah, he did. He was denied.
He was.
Yeah,
denied.
I think
What
it
were
was
the
that
grounds for it?
if he goes home, he said MS-13 tried to force him to join the gang.
Oh, right.
And if he had to flee the country, if he goes back, they'll kill him. But meanwhile, he's hanging out with people known to be in that gang by the gang unit. So they're like, okay, he's wearing the same clothes as them. He's clearly in the gang.
So, I mean, if it walks like a duck is the phrase, right?
Yeah.
And he's quacking and walking, and he looks like a duck, and
Water's just
big,
rolling off
beautiful
his
duck.
back. You know?
Mm-hmm.
right? We love ducks.
Democrats really really love evil stuff.
They have taken the side of the bad guys, and I'm here for
Every
it.
single
hide
time.
it. They used to hide it a little better, right? Like they used to. I feel like it was they never just. This is a full on embrace now, right? Where maybe they would have ignored this story in the past, or kind of maybe mentioned it once or twice, and then said, "Oh, this guy's really bad news. Let's find something else." They are advocating for him to come back.
Well, no, you just don't understand because he was involved in gang activity due to his childhood trauma.
Of course,
He never he never went to Freudian psychotherapy to resolve in himself. So he deserves to be here so he can continue that process of growth.
This is a common thing that you see with the left, and I get so. Anyways, it's a common thing you see. They don't believe that people have agency, right? So the people that are criminals, they're criminals because of the situation they're in, because of the way they grew up, etc. It's not that the criminals decided to do criminal things. It's that
Wait a minute.
What?
I kind of disagree with your point of view here.
Go ahead, please.
The question of whether or not these violent criminals have agency is kind of irrelevant because they should just be thrown in jail anyway.
Fair enough.
Doesn't matter.
Fair enough. I mean,
honestly, personally, I don't think that they have a lot of agency. I think some of them just have a propensity to violence, and they're just psychopaths. They're just born that way.
So you think that? Well, okay. So it's not. They're not a product of their environment. They're just born.
Maybe it's some of both.
Bad people. I mean, I tend to agree with you, but the leftists, I don't think that. Whereas I tend to agree with you, and I think that there's a lot of people have certain proclivities, right? Like if you're conservative, you're probably you've got a significant portion of your conservative leaning is because of like longer time preferences or
higher disgust factor is another
things
one.
like that.
It
Like
is.
the big five that Jordan Peterson talks about. The
IQ above 100.
fair enough.
You can hold a job.
Right.
You know?
Right.
General emotional stability. These
Being
things.
hot.
But I think that what I'm talking about is more the way that the left kind of makes excuses for people that act. They say, well, it's not their fault. It's the conditions that they're in, and they do it. You hear people that, again, the Israel-Palestine thing. People always say, well, what would you do if you were in Palestine? I wouldn't go into Israel and kidnap people. It's like you may have a problem with the fight, but I wouldn't be getting. When the actual terrorists went into Israel, I wouldn't have been jumping on mopeds to be like, yo, let's go grab some Jews and bring them back.
You're right.
I wouldn't have done that. That is what I would not have.
They
done.
want to believe that crime happens to criminals.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the same thing like when it comes to the Ukraine Russia, right? Like there are a lot of people that are out there they're making excuses for Russia invading Ukraine. And it's like, well, look, I mean, I understand that the US foreign policy, led up
Let's not derail that far.
well, I'm just saying that that's something that you hear a lot. People
Yeah.
taking agency away from the actors. Like Putin's the guy that said we're going to go in.
In
well,
regard
Shawn was going to say something.
Well, just basically to add on to that is that the left will go and find something horrible and try and justify it or say, well, they have a point. Mangione a great example where they say, well, the healthcare industry is so evil, and it may be. I'm not going to deny that there's bad practices in the health insurance industry. But the solution to that is not to kill CEOs on the
100%.
street.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. So there's common ground there if we want to find it, right? Where we can say, all right, healthcare, health insurance, there's a lot that we may want to fix. There's a lot of things you may feel slighted by whoever, is your insurance provider. But the solution isn't to murder the CEO. First of all, it wasn't the CEO who did. Brian Thompson, I think was his name. He didn't deny that person's care. He's just the CEO of the company. If
it was new.
If my T-Mobile went down, right, I wouldn't say, well, the CEO must die, because I have no service in the hills. That's just not the way a rational person thinks.
Let's jump to the story from CNN. Abrego Garcia's wife responds to Trump administration publicizing civil protective order from 2021. Why is everybody calling him Abrego Garcia? I just realized his name is Kilmar, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
Maybe they don't like that name. I
don't think so.
Kilmar.
It just doesn't sound like
Kilmore.
doesn't sound like a very Maryland man type of name, right?
I mean, Kilmore?
Kilmore,
MS-13 gang member. Anyway.
such nominal determinism every time.
Yeah, so check it out. The wife of the Maryland man. I'm gonna fix this real quick. Can I fix this? Can we?
He's gonna go in and edit it.
I gotta fix this. There we go. Maryland man. So for those that are watching, you'll understand this. The wife of the terrorist. Enter. Did we get it? I fixed it. There we go. The wife of the terrorist who the U.S. government mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. Acknowledged she had filed a civil protective order against him for 4 years ago, but said it was out of an abundance of caution, and the couple had worked through their issues. We call that Stockholm Syndrome.
No, she's just a ride or die hoe. Like El Chapo's wife. She just said she had no idea about any of the criminal activity.
I've never heard anyone more ride or die than Chapo's
Chapo's
wife.
wife.
I don't
had
know
no
what
idea what he
you're
was
talking
doing.
about.
They
An
keep
abundance
it
of
down.
caution for what, though? What was she being cautious about? Nobody wants to ask that question.
Left and right.
Exactly, right? So you're being cautious. Why did you feel like you had to be cautious? Right? That's it. Because he's beating her up with closed
No,
fists. That's why.
She burnt the enchiladas. You don't understand.
That does suck. I like my enchiladas.
You're just
to
not
be
like
just
really
right.
stepping into his shoes and like understanding.
Not understanding him, no.
Well, I mean, look, he's
Stepping
trafficking
into
humans.
blockbusters.
He's trafficking humans, and at the same time trafficking mud on the carpet, and she's yelling at him, and then he gets physical, right?
Yeah.
That is a joke, by the way. That is not a statement of fact. Let me read more. DHS posted portions of the order on X Wednesday and described Abrego Garcia as an MS-13 gang member who is not a sympathetic figure. The Trump administration's release of the document comes as part of a renewed push to portray Abrego Garcia, who has not been charged with or convicted of any crime, is a violent and dangerous criminal and a member of MS-13. Abrego Garcia's wife and lawyers have denied he is part of a gang. Well, 2 judges said he was. In a statement to CNN, Vasquez Sura said she sought civil protective order after a disagreement with Abrego Garcia. Oh, so she was falsely accusing him of domestic violence? Because in the filing, it says domestic violence. So, okay, she's right. Abrego didn't do anything wrong. Trump, lock her up. She filed the false report.
Yeah. Go after her. That's it. Yeah.
There you go.
Pretty simple.
Quote, things did not escalate and I decided not to follow through with the civil court process. We were able to work through the situation privately as a family, including by going to counseling. Our marriage only grew stronger in the years that followed. No one is perfect and no marriage is perfect. Lady, I got news for you. If you're filing domestic violence petitions, we ain't talking about whether it's imperfect. We're talking whether or not you're going to die. And, maybe the reason she's doing this is because MS-13's threatening her.
That's true.
That could be.
Yep, they're like, we want you to go out in a statement and say he's a good guy. And she's like, oh no. This, you know what's really funny is like, honestly, she filed an order of protection against this guy. He gets deported. She might have been very happy. Like, oh, thank God. And the reason why she ultimately doesn't follow through with the domestic violence petition is because MS-13 will come after her.
Yeah.
And so she's like, even if I win here, I lose there. Now, I think there's a possibility that MS-13 and other gangs went to the wife and said, go and say he's a good guy and say he's not in the gang or else. So now you got this woman, and I don't think it's unreasonable to say, what is the proof that when she filed the domestic violence petition, she intended not to follow through with it? When I go to a bar, in the bathrooms, you ever see the signs where it's like, are you being trafficked? And it's like, here's the hand sign you have to do. And there's some bathrooms in bars where there's like little red ribbons and the women are supposed to take them and then hand them to the bartender. And that signals the bartender to call the police because they can't speak up about things. So here's a guy that 2 judges have said is in MS-13, hanging out with MS-13 guys. His wife filed a domestic violence petition, and now all of a sudden she's going, no, actually everything's okay. I'm like, okay, well, I learned from going to a bar that sometimes people who are telling you it's fine are secretly being trafficked or under threat.
Yeah.
So thank you, CNN.
Wow.
I don't know, just
Yeah,
speculating.
maybe she should go into witness protection.
Yeah, I don't think you escape a gang like that. You know what I mean?
Is she a
They're
citizen?
brutal.
Yes.
They're MS-13. When I grew up on Long Island, they took over a whole town. It's Brentwood on Long Island, and they're brutal. Now Tren de Aragua makes them look like Boy Scouts, but these guys they chop body parts, the Colombian necktie. I mean, it's bad. It's real, and they don't mess around. When you're on their list,
Wait, what is the Colombian?
when they kill someone, they pull your tongue through the throat and leave it on the body. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Really
It's
didn't know what
disgusting.
Columbia. Wow.
I had no idea what that was.
And this was something that happened. Long Island's like a nice suburban little.
What's it called when they put the tires around you? Necklacing? Necklacing.
Necklacing.
Okay.
Burn.
What do they do? They put it around your whole body or just your neck?
Top of the neck and then pour
Top of the neck?
gas in it.
They put gas. Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
Bro, it is wild.
Those are the people the Democrats want to bring back. That guy. Now I'm not saying he did any of that. We don't know, but he was a part of that gang that routinely did those things. Like on Long Island, if some story came in the papers that said that there was a dismembered body part found in the woods, the first thing you would think was MS-13.
Yeah.
Without even thinking twice. That's the people. That's the type of person that Senator Van Hollen is down there trying to bring back. I don't know if he did any of that, but you're a part of that gang, you know.
Just so long as Democrats are unsuccessful in their efforts,
Yeah.
I am all for their efforts, because most of the American people look at this and say, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
They
That's why the media's lying.
Well, yeah, the media, of course, the media lies, but I think that nowadays most people don't watch the mainstream media. I think that they'll look to podcasts or look to other forms of news.
Yes, but you know that like Midas Touch and David Pakman are using the same talking points.
Yeah, but I don't know that. Is it your sense that those people that watch David Pakman could be reached? Do you believe that they? Because I feel like people that watch Pakman, people that watch Midas Touch, those people are already going to be like, whatever the Democrats say. That's
Bro, there's no middle.
There's no middle at all.
We actually have the data, and we've gone over the charts on this show. The middle is like 3% of the country at this point. Certainly it matters to a degree, of course, but that 3%, how much are actually watching the news, and that's why they're in the middle, and it's going to be like 27% of 3% actually actively pays attention.
So you're saying that there's no point in even addressing it, or there's no point in trying to...
I'm saying that we do this show to call it out every single day. We want people to share this show, and we are hoping that by exposing how they've lied, people who are in the cult might break free. But there's not like an undecided individual who's like, I'm not sure who we can talk to about this.
No, it's not about whether or not about them trying to find out who they can talk to, but it's about platforms like ours and like others trying to make sure that the narrative that the Democrats are putting out, that the truth comes out, you know, and the average person that doesn't go out and search for this information, or even the people that do, make sure that there's the truth is out there.
I just mean that there's a large contingent in this country that are going to turn on David Pakman, and he's going to lie about every element of this story, and they're going to believe him. That was the initial point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are still people that get their news in small bits, the kind of people that are like, you know, not super plugged in, but they'll go and they'll watch an hour, 2 hours worth of news. You have to make sure that they have the ability to hear the actual truth of the story, which is he's not a Maryland man.
Right. I mean, the funny thing too is like, how long was he even in Maryland? Like 6 years or 7 years, something like that. So it's like the guy is, well, how old is he? Like 39 or 40? I don't even know how old he is.
I don't know.
But a tiny portion of his life is in,
something like that.
like he's a Maryland man.
Yeah.
Like
right.
where was he before this? El Salvador?
That's the attempt to kind of distract from the fact that he's illegal, right? You know, because you're not allowed to use that term, right? So they say he's from Maryland because that's where he was, but that's not where he's
He was
from.
resting his head here for just
Right.
a moment.
You know, it's like I grew up in New York. I live in Tennessee, you know, but it's like I wouldn't say that I'm from Tennessee yet. I mean, I've been there for 2 years. I grew up in New York for 31. I'm from New York. Mm-hmm. I live in Tennessee, right? And I love it. I call Tennessee's my home. We bought a house there. It's a great state. But where people ask where I'm from, my response is always, well, I grew up in New York. I live in Tennessee now because I spent 31 years of my life in New York and 3 years of my life in Tennessee, right? So where is this guy actually from? Well, he was in Maryland when this whole deportation happened, but he's from El Salvador, right? Mm-hmm. They can't admit that. They can't put that. They have to. It's branding. They have to brand him a Maryland man. You know, it's anything you see in the supermarket. Yoo-hoo. They don't call it chocolate milk, right? It's chocolate drink, right? Because it's not milk, and it's a whole like you have to brand him a certain way to garner that sympathy.
Yeah.
So to say that you just mistakenly deported a guy from Maryland, that sounds horrible. But you didn't just mistakenly deport a guy from Maryland. You intentionally deported an illegal alien who belonged to a terrorist organization out of Maryland because he was a danger to the people in Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that the Trump administration had the what's it called, the press conference that they did today, and they had the evidence that shows that he's, all these terrible things. But at the end of the day, like, that's kind of an aside because he's here illegally,
Right. So immediately he's ripe for deportation. It's not like one of these things where he came, overstayed his visa, and that's a civil violation.
Yep.
He admitted, I walked across the desert for a few days and entered the country illegally in 2012.
Yep.
So on that alone, that's a crime. Out. Goodbye.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, from the Washington Post. Judge Boasberg to launch contempt proceedings into the Trump administration. Oh, boy. Is the judge going to try to arrest Donald Trump's lawyers, U.S. attorneys?
Who would be doing the arresting?
The argument is that warrants would be issued and any jurisdiction would pick him up.
Really?
But I don't think anyone's going to arrest U.S. attorneys. This is a massive gambit on Judge Boasberg's part, and this is the game.
Yeah.
Someone had to escalate this to executive authority. Check this out. The Washington Post says, Chief U.S. District Judge James E. Boasberg of Washington, D.C. on Wednesday said he would launch proceedings to determine whether any Trump administration officials defied his order not to remove Venezuelan migrants from the country based on the Wartime Alien Enemies Act. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it. He says, blah, blah. Boasberg's order is the latest development. He basically said that there was probable cause. He said, he said the statement he gave out, I don't know if they have it in here. Probable cause determined that contempt of court did occur. And essentially what this means is not yet they're going to have a hearing on contempt, but he's basically fired a shot across the bow at Donald Trump. Now, I will ask y'all, what happens if he actually tries to if he actually does issue a warrant to have Trump's attorneys or anyone in his administration arrested?
I mean, I don't know exactly who. It depends on who the arresting authority is, right?
Well, I mean, the argument is, does no one try to arrest them? Like, what happens if a judge says, warrant, go arrest Trump's U.S. attorneys?
Yeah, I'm not sure who would actually be who would have jurisdiction, because I would assume the Department of Justice has to.
If the warrant gets issued, doesn't that go out to all departments and agencies and they look up someone's information? Is a cop going to be like, there's a warrant, but I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to arrest you?
That's interesting. I
don't know.
Interesting. I don't. Isn't this the case that was just kind of overruled by the Supreme Court, though, that Donald Trump was within his authority? So can he even do that? I mean, can he actually hold them in contempt for something the Supreme Court said isn't a something? Like, there's no there anymore. So hasn't his authority essentially been overridden in this case?
It's a judicial coup.
That's what it is.
It's likely that regardless of the Supreme Court's ruling, he had a ruling that was defied, and they went to the Supreme Court, so he's making a side argument. It's kind of like when you get arrested for resisting arrest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, who does the arresting, though? That's an interesting,
I don't know.
Who does it go out to?
I guess the big question is this criminal contempt? It is. He wants them to face criminal contempt charges. So a cursory search. It's a willful disobeying of the courts, criminal contempt. So what will happen next is a contempt finding will be issued. The judge will enter a formal ruling. It can be a summons, fines, or even jail time. The U.S. Attorney's Office would likely seek appeal, which may work. DOJ leadership may get involved. If criminal contempt is upheld, the attorney could be fined or jailed, although jailing a federal prosecutor is exceptionally rare and would provoke a major legal and constitutional standoff. If it's tied to a politically sensitive case, it could trigger congressional investigations, DOJ reviews, and massive media attention. That's about it. There was, a federal judge threatened DOJ attorneys in 2015 with contempt in an immigration case. Interesting. He stopped short of any sanctions. So we will see. It's hard to know what would happen. But this is him basically saying, like, criminal contempt, we want to put you in jail.
He's going to try it. I mean, he's already threatening it. He's going to. I think he's going to follow through. He thinks so. He is, right? And I think this highlights another problem that we have, obviously, with the judicial branch in the country, where one district court judge, one ruling from a district court judge. I mean, these district court judges actually have more power than a singular Supreme Court justice. You know, it takes 5 on the Supreme Court to push a ruling through.
That's interesting.
One from him is, and you have a national block.
Which is unconstitutional and brings us to the ongoing constitutional crisis that is happening in this country. Donald Trump needs to start ignoring all the orders. And I think Trump knows this. And I think the play he's currently making is he's got to be careful because perception is reality.
Right.
If he is going around laughing, saying no one can stop me and the courts won't do a thing about it, then the public will stand against him. Like, people are going to freak out and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But if Trump says, we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, what are they talking about? Then people are going to be more confused and more willing to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not an expert in this judicial process. I mean, this is probably unprecedented, right? I don't.
Well, none of this whole injunction thing at the rate that it's happening now happened under Biden.
Under anyone. Under anyone ever.
And they'll say, well, that's because Biden didn't, blah, 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 blah. He didn't break the law. Like, did he not defy the Supreme Court with the student loan?
Let me pause you on that argument. Universal injunctions are unconstitutional, period. Judges have authority only over those in their court proceeding. So if you and Mary won a lawsuit to me, I could only say you and you. I couldn't say the whole nation.
The whole nation.
And they've done 81 of these in 64 in Trump's first term and 17 so far into his second. More than any other president and around half of all universal injunctions ever issued. And they are not constitutional. Trump and the DOJ need to bring this up. This needs to be their fight.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because it's judicial tyranny is what it is. It's supposed to be separate but equal branches. It's a coup. You're supposed to, each branch is supposed to have equal power. That's the and it's not right now. A district court judge has more power than a Supreme Court justice, which doesn't make any sense. And a district court judge can decide that he's the president now and can start telling the executive branch how to do their job.
Yeah.
And within the authority that, this, like the trans ban in the military, Donald Trump is the commander in chief of the military.
Yep.
A judge shouldn't be able to tell Donald Trump how to. That's not their lane. You can't get in that lane.
No, and the idea that a judge should be able to affect the whole country like this. We have an executive. We have the separation of powers for a reason.
Right.
And a judge stepping into what the executive is doing in all of these different, like every single different arena that the president is trying to act in. And there are multiple judges that are stepping in the way. They're literally taking the authority away from the president, which was given to him. And I've said this before multiple times. The only person elected by the whole of the electorate, right, the whole country, is the president. Congress and the Senate, they're elected by their constituents in the congressional districts and the states. The only person elected by the whole of the electorate is the president, and the president won clearly with the majority of the vote. Right, 77 million people didn't win just by the Electoral College, won the popular vote, and of course won the Electoral College. He had a mandate from the American people to do these things, and now the judges are stepping in because they're politically motivated. Again,
right.
This is not about this is all politically motivated. Tim,
I got a question for the listeners. If you were the U.S. attorney or the DOJ, and the judge issued a fine for criminal contempt, would you say, "Thank you, Your Honor, I will pay it post haste," or would you say, "Shove it"? Honest question. Put 1 in the chat for bending the knee to the judge and 2 in the chat for giving him the middle finger. And the reason I asked this, I'm curious why it doesn't happen. Like at this point, why isn't the Trump attorneys and the DOJ just laughing at the judge, being like, "Bro, you're a district court judge. You don't mean ish. Right. You can't do nothing about it."
I don't know. I think the only reason why is that you just mentioned public perception, and would it be something that the public looks at and does the normie crowd understand that he's a district court judge? Do they know what that means, or does it look like Donald Trump is violating a court order and that's bad? I don't know what they're thinking.
It's twos. Well, it's like 100% twos. Everyone's saying like, screw this judge.
Screw the judge. I'm on the screw the judge train.
Look, man, what would you do, Phil? If you were in court and this judge said, I'm going to fine you for criminal contempt, would you be like, I will pay? Or would you be like, nah?
I'd be like, holy contempt up yours.
Right. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. That's why this is all, when we had Hannah on yesterday, Hannah Cox, she was saying that she fears it'll escalate to like a civil war with this tit for tat that's ongoing. But it's like the day after she's here saying it's a tit for tat, it's escalating. It's the Democrat judges threatening to imprison or fine Trump's legal team. And they did. And the Supreme Court actually said that they could not be compelled to engage in foreign policy actions like this.
Right.
So it don't matter if Judge Boasberg thinks they're in contempt. The Supreme Court said you couldn't have ordered this in the first place.
Right.
Well, I guess, to be fair, he's arguing that he wanted a detailed timeline on how this all went down. And they cited, I guess, state secrets, executive privilege of some sort.
Sure. Yeah, that's what they said. State secrets was state secrets.
And the judge has no right to these things.
No.
Bye-bye. That's it.
Yeah, they should ignore that order.
Look, we call it a cold civil war, call it whatever you want. You've got judges issuing unconstitutional edict over this nation at rates we've never seen before. It is unprecedented. You got all these young people that are like, nothing ever happens. And it won't stop happening.
Right.
He's been on you about that.
Really stuck with you, huh?
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, like we talked about this before, this wouldn't be the situation if the previous administration had not been totally lawless when it comes to the border.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the Biden administration had done their job and if Joe Biden had not specifically said to people, surge the border.
Right. Come.
Like he said that in the debate. And if you think that people around the world don't listen when the president talks, you are wrong.
Right.
You are just wrong. He made that statement, and consequently, there was a wave after wave after wave of people coming to this country that have come into the United States. They're seeking asylum, but they didn't go to ports of entry, which is the proper way to do it. They would just come across the border, and when they would eventually bump into a border patrol or whatever, they'd say, I'm seeking asylum. And for some reason, the border patrol would say, okay, let's take care of you as if this is the proper way to seek asylum. If you came here seeking asylum and you didn't go to the port of entry, you're here illegally, and you got to go back.
That's it.
You got to leave. We got to toss them out. This is the current administration trying to fix the lawlessness of the previous administration, and over and over, the courts are literally getting in the way, upholding the illegal actions or preventing the remedy to illegal actions by the previous administration.
I say it all the time. Right? No matter where it is. Laws only matter if they're enforced, right? So when you have because and the proof is in the pudding right now. 95% drop in border encounters on the southern border, and there was no new legislation passed. Trump said it in his state. All we needed, right, was a new president and a beautiful president and a highly respected. He's a beautiful guy. But no, seriously, Biden and they didn't enforce the laws that we had on the books. Right. So, I make this example. I get pulled over for speeding, but the law is such that paying the fine is optional. I'm not paying it because there's no enforcement. There's nothing compelling me to give somebody else my money for a traffic citation or whatever it is. IRS sends me a signed, beautiful, you never have to pay taxes again, and we promise you're not going to jail. They will not get another dollar out of me. I'm not going to pay it just to feel warm and fuzzy. I'm just not paying. The problem is that's not the case. They enforce those laws. They didn't enforce the laws down on the border. When these people don't, what was it? Don't, right? Was that one word policy? But it was like, if you're not enforcing the law, then the law doesn't matter. Trump and his administration is enforcing the law, so the law matters. The problem is you have these courts that are basically saying the enforcement of the law is illegal, but it's the law. It's hard. It's frustrating.
This is the constitutional crisis, and it is that the judiciary is asserting constitutional correctness, as is the executive. Both are saying we are right and you can't do this. And guys, this is the issue that we've talked about when it comes to the concept of civil war. When two factions reach the highest level of government, Right now, the judiciary, which is propped up by Democrats, and these people were all appointed by Democrats or largely, are outright saying our worldview is correct and your worldview is wrong. And on the right, they're saying the exact same thing. No, your worldview is wrong and our worldview is right. And I happen to think that reality has a right-wing bias because Maryland man is a lie.
Yeah.
And that's what they do to maintain power. Trump's only option is to stay course and defend the Constitution. The argument the left is going to make and the liberals are making is that Trump is violating the Constitution. He's in fact not. He's abiding by it perfectly.
Yeah.
They are in violation of the Constitution. If Trump does not stop them, he has abandoned his oath to the Constitution.
That's a good point. You know, and you mentioned reality has a right-wing bias, which is an interesting way to phrase it. But I think when Bukele was in the Oval Office, they had a conversation and Trump said, you know, the people that are running it right now, it's not conservative, it's common sense. And I think that just kind of goes to what you're saying, that reality has that right-wing bias, right? And in other words, Donald Trump has espoused a lot of common sense positions, right? Securing the border is a common sense position. You can ask anybody, right, left, center, up or down. Do you lock the door to your home at night because you hate the people on the outside? I hope you don't live in that type of neighborhood. Or because you love the people on the inside because you want to protect what's yours. And it's like, well, of course I lock my door, right? Well, apply that to the country. You know, you don't just let people into your house without permission if you don't know who they are. I wouldn't. Okay. I mean, unless we get a SWAT call and I really have no choice and sometimes, but I wouldn't let somebody in my house if I don't know who they are, they're not coming in. That's the point, right?
Well, we do have some news on this front from the New York Post. Trump administration refers New York Attorney General Letitia James for potential prosecution over alleged mortgage fraud.
Good.
This is crazy. It's like there's so many instances it's hard to even go through all of them. In one instance, she was buying a house in Norfolk, Virginia, which she listed as her primary residence. And she did this, they say, to secure favorable terms. They said it was her primary home. Quote, it appears Ms. James' property and mortgage-related misrepresentations may have continued to her recent 2023 Norfolk VA property purchase in order to secure a lower interest rate and more favorable loan terms. If her primary residence was in Virginia, she is ineligible for being AG. And she apparently this happened in 2023 while she was preparing her case against Donald Trump for civil fraud pertaining to the accusation that Trump inflated his assets for more favorable loan terms, of which is a total lie. They also want to mention that she misrepresented a building as having 4 units when it had 5. Why? Because there was a restriction, I believe, on some mortgage applications where you couldn't get a 5-unit building. In order to qualify for a special loan, it had to be 4 or less. So she lied about the size of her building for more favorable terms. That's what she accused Trump of doing, which was also a lie. The question now is, we've seen nothing but half measures. Judge Boasberg says contempt of court, hearings to maybe determine whether or not you did. Housing, the Housing Finance Agency saying you should prosecute. Maybe they will. And then this morning you had Pam Bondi say, we are suing Maine for having men and women's sports and considering maybe at some point, just a little bit, taking away their money. Like, how about anybody just do something?
Go in. Got to go all in.
Arrest Letitia James. Criminally charge her for mortgage fraud.
Yes.
Let's roll.
Yeah, I'm with that. Because again, what I just said? Laws are only laws if they're enforced. If you give her this carve out, then you're setting the precedent that what she did is okay. And you just can't do that. She tried to set the precedent that what Donald Trump didn't do was something that he did to the tune of a $450 million judgment, right? She listed her husband, her father as her husband. She's not even married. It's not one of those things where, oops, I made a mistake and put dad's name where hubby's name was supposed to. That's you don't have a husband.
Maybe she's banging her dad.
Well, I hope not,
No.
It'll be like some Ilhan Omar type stuff. Some people did something.
See, we instantly...
We had to do it, right? Jar Jar Binks, we call it Jar Jar Binks.
I forgot what I was going to say.
It's funny. It's such a great impression. It's so distracting.
Oh, right. Some people, I'd say most people, because we're reasonable and obviously incest is wrong.
Right.
When you hear that she listed her dad as her husband, you're like, she must have been lying to secure loan terms. Maybe it's like, wait. Maybe she's just gross.
Yeah, she could be. She looks like Sasquatch. Look at her. That's Sasquatch. You will not see anything different. You look up a picture of what Sasquatch looks like, same person.
No, she's not blurry enough.
Well, right, yeah. She hasn't been taken on a Nokia flip phone.
And I got to give a shout out to Mitch Hedberg for that one. What is his joke? Maybe Sasquatch is just blurry? Yeah. That dude was a legend. But look, in terms of the escalation, the question is, will the Trump administration has saber rattled quite a bit. Now these judges are saber rattling.
Yeah.
Is any one of them actually going to say, okay, let's go arrest people? Trump's pulled clearances. The rumor is when he pulled the clearances of like Hillary Clinton and Biden and Secret Service and all that, it's preparation for an arrest. I would argue with midterm season starting in like not even a year, like it's going to be less than that, to be honest. Yeah. We're already in the 2028 primary cycle with Shapiro and Newsom. Trump's got a very limited window to do bold things. If he waits a year to issue indictments, that will upset the midterms and could hurt him.
Yeah, I think it'll demotivate the base. You know, I mean, we heard about retribution, right? And I don't think retribution was supposed to be half measures. And I'm not saying I'm disappointed in what he's done his first 100 days. I'm very happy with how a lot of things have started off, but he's got to go all the way on at least some of it. You know, I'm not saying you got to round up everybody who said, you know, and take broadcasting licenses away from everybody and indict and arrest like crazy, you know, like whack-a-mole, but something's got to happen. I mean, Letitia James, this should be low-hanging fruit. She lied on this. It looks like it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Unless this was a calamity of coincidences, which I don't believe in. There's no way that what she did isn't mortgage fraud if she actually did that, you know, intentionally, which looks like she did.
Well, she responded, I am not afraid of no president.
Oh, God, come on.
No, stop, gentlemen. Once again, you're making an incorrect assumption. That's a double negative, in which she is saying she may be afraid of some president.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
She says she's coming for Trump. I'm not afraid of no president, so you are afraid of some president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. Let me just stress that the appellate court has been sitting on their ruling in the civil fraud case for 7 months, which is very weird.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. I think that this was clearly deep state versus Trump. Mm-hmm. And the appellate court knows if they issue a ruling, they're either saying we will help the deep state or we will help Trump. And they don't know who's going to win. So they're just doing nothing.
They're waiting, sitting on their hands.
Yep.
Kind of seeing which way the
wind blows.
The wind blows. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I ain't afraid of no president. Okay. Well, Sasquatch. She's afraid
again, we all learned our double negatives.
Right.
Okay. You don't do that. Right.
Right.
What did you say? So I've got to rush back to the office because you know that there's nothing more close to my heart than a lawsuit. And so you tell Donald Trump the lawsuit's coming in a matter of hours. Uh-huh. Okay. And then she said a bunch of stuff I don't care to read. I just want to see some people get arrested. You know what I mean?
That's kind of something that I was thinking, like the whole like issue surrounding the real estate stuff. Like, I feel like it's fairly obvious that that was corrupt.
Right.
And I don't know the process that you'd have to go through or the DOJ would have to go through, but I really feel like, hey, shouldn't you be investigating this? This is clearly a BS charge. And isn't there some kind of violation of the law when all the parties involved said, no, we're happy with this situation, and they blatantly lied about the value of Mar-a-Lago, you know, and she went to prosecute. Isn't there some remedy, or didn't she break some law? And again, not that I know, but I feel like, shouldn't the DOJ be like, all right, look, you broke this law, we're going to invest, or you broke the law by trying to, you know, improperly prosecute this person. It was based on total BS. It was politically motivated. Isn't that, I feel like that, again, I don't know, but I feel like there should be some kind of law that was broken. That I feel like that is illegal somehow. And why is it that the DOJ hasn't started to investigate that kind of stuff?
I can't answer that question.
Not going to get arrested.
No, I mean, I don't think so either. Well, even for this, you don't think so?
No. It's
Why?
all bravado and nothing ever happens.
Right
again.
I hope this is the exception to the rule. When I lived in New York, I never liked this lady. All right. Before I figured out that she looked like Sasquatch, I still never liked her. And
you're saying that you would have liked someone else more? Like if you heard
probably not. Yeah, I probably wouldn't like any. I don't like any Democrats in New York. You have Kathy Hochul.
No, but you said even. What would you say? Even before.
Before she looked like Sasquatch. before I
Right. So
realized
the
that.
implication is that there are some people you've not met that you would like more if
Yeah.
you saw them and they looked like Sasquatch.
Well, if
But I agree with that. If I knew a dude, but I only ever talked to him on the phone, and I showed up and Sasquatch was there, I'd be like,
yeah, I would be like, we found him. Right? It's like, finally, we got something. I want to see her. She is. There are things I want to say we can't say, right? But she is such a detestable person, and she's carried herself in this. How many times did she post on X? Nobody's above the law, and she's doing this, right?
Her insolence should be smacked down.
Right.
That's not gonna happen.
That's what I feel like.
Like if she got arrested, I'd be like, "Oh, karma's a bitch." But like,
And then
she's
you'd say
not gonna
things
get
happen?
arrested. Then I would finally admit that something happened.
they arrested Donald Trump twice. Is that not a thing happening?
Okay, that's a happening. Fine.
And that was only last year. Like they literally arrested him.
Yeah.
It was funny because we kept saying like maybe they'll arrest him. Actually, no, wait, he's been arrested several times already.
Right,
I've
right,
said
right.
before, he's just not angry enough. He's so magnanimous that he's like the retribution thing was. It was
Give me
just
the Donald
bravado, and
Trump
it's-
that the left says that.
I know.
Yes,
wish
yes.
all the time that he were the man they say he is, but he's not.
Minus
the
maybe
famous-
the dictator. I'm not into the whole authoritarian. I like that. I have a very strong libertarian streak. I don't want a president to rule like a king, but I want angry Trump with these people.
The saying is, be the change you want to see in the world. I like the meme that's be the right the left thinks you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least be as tough,
The right is the please leave me alone side, and the left is we will win side.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. You saw that in
Time for the
Wisconsin.
tables to turn then.
I mean, I would.
But that's what Trump is. And that's, so with 2015, you had the populists with Bernie and the populists on the right with Trump. Trump is a forceful guy who knows how to get things done. And Bernie is a shallow, weak-willed hypocrite.
Yeah.
So he got washed out in 2 seconds. Trump kicked the door in and started rearranging the furniture.
Yeah.
They did not like that.
I want to see Trump doing a little of the FDR. A little of the Abraham
Wait,
Lincoln.
4 terms?
No, not. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about like actually being an expansive, energetic, muscular president. I want him. Well, I mean, I don't know about shock and awe, but
Maybe he should start taking some tea and get ripped and just look. He can be he can be the Trump that Ben Garrison thinks he is.
He's 220 pounds.
Yes.
So
sure
they
he
say.
is.
He's
Donald
elite.
So
Trend
they
Trump.
say. Have you seen the meme of Donald Trump 6'3", 225, and then DK Metcalf at the Seattle Seahawks?
Donald
6'3",
Trump.
and this guy looks like Superman, and I'm like, so maybe Trump is 200 something. Looks
Well,
like.
muscle weighs more than fat, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not fat though. I'm a beautiful guy. I talked to Zeus.
I think, Mary, you're probably not familiar with the Ben Garrison comics.
I've seen them.
So, like, Trump's always ripped,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, because, you're like a young person over here, so I don't know if you're into those boomer memes, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like a Mexican standoff. The concern is that whoever makes the first move for law enforcement, it's like we're at that point where Matt Taibbi described it as 2 vehicles speed towards the police station, and then 2 men get out of the cars, run up to the stairs, run up to the police officer, and they point at each other, arrest that man.
right. That's
So-
a game of chicken.
But I would say right now, Trump's play is now for one reason. He is the duly elected president with a popular mandate, and there is no reason to doubt that. If Trump gives Democrats a long enough period of time, they will create a criminal narrative, which they are doing with, quote, Maryland man. Now Boasberg is saying criminal contempt because they're trying to create a fissure within the psyche of law enforcement in this country that they will be justified in the arrest of Trump at some point. If Trump right now made moves to arrest, he's the president. This is the DOJ. This is the FBI. What questions are to be asked? 6 months from now, the narrative may be implanted in the minds of half the country that Trump kidnapped a legal U.S. resident and sent him to a torture dungeon to die. And that's the narrative they're trying to build.
Yeah.
And when that happens, and Trump says, we've got a warrant for your arrest, they will turn around and say, what Trump is doing is illegal. Don't forget, he kidnapped American citizens and sent them to torture dungeons.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's why that goes back to the branding of Maryland man.
Exactly.
Right.
And then what happens is you'll get a cop, and he's going to be like, I don't know nothing about this. Okay, see double negatives. He's gonna be like, a warrant was issued. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and the governor of his blue state is going to say, you do not report to Donald Trump. You are a Maryland police officer. Trump is breaking the law. No one is above the law. Trump can't let them get to that point in shattering the psyche of this country, which means he has a very small window for going after corrupt people like Letitia James and Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney for the crimes that they are alleged to have committed with falsifying evidence or tampering with witnesses. Because if he waits, they're now accusing him of stock manipulation.
Yeah.
They are trying to stack up the things for which they can accuse him of committing crimes.
Yeah.
So that they can get people willing to fight Trump.
Do you think it'll be on a state basis like that, like you said, a Maryland judge?
It has to be.
Yeah, so it's going to be a bunch of Democrats who are arguing for states' rights again.
Yes. Well, so
Where have we seen that before?
What happens?
Wonder where.
What happens if Boasberg says, we're going to have a criminal contempt proceeding and I want you in my court? And they say, go F yourself. We're not showing up. And then he says, then you are in contempt and I will issue a warrant for your arrest. And they say, nice try. Blue states will absolutely uphold those warrants.
Absolutely.
You might get a conservative-leaning cop in Maryland. Look, the cops in Maryland talk a big game. The cops in Jersey talk a big game. We're Trump supporters. We're conservatives. People have right to bear arms, but they will arrest you in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. In Jersey, they arrest little old ladies for having weapons. It's a famous story about some little old lady from PA crossed the bridge not realizing they did not have reciprocity. They threatened her with 4 years in prison. Cops are just like, look, man, my boss told me what to do, and I ain't giving up my salary for you.
Just following orders.
Yeah, so you're going to get a blue state where they're going to be like, Madam U.S. Attorney, I have a warrant for your arrest. And she's going to say, I am the U.S. Attorney for this district. This is unconstitutional. She's going to say, I don't know nothing about that other than my boss told me to arrest you. And I'm not going to lose my job for you because I don't know who you are. And then what? They get arrested? This is what people say, like, nah, they would never do it, bro.
Yes, they would.
Yeah, they absolutely would.
They absolutely would.
A cop who is a diehard Trump supporter who lives in Los Angeles would absolutely arrest one of Donald Trump's cabinet or administration if
They'd
he was
be
told
a
to do it.
hero to the left.
No. I'm saying a conservative cop who supports Trump and wears MAGA hats, who works in the LA Police Department, when told to arrest a Donald Trump administration official, would do so and say, sorry about doing this. You know how I know? Because they literally did it over and over again. With the arrest of Trump's lawyers and the arrest of Trump himself, not a single cop said, I got a problem with this. Not a single cop had a problem with arresting Trump's lawyers, administration officials, and Trump himself. They all just did it. They all just did it. So Trump right now is the president. He's got a short window. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think you're wrong, but I think that when it comes to, who would arrest Trump, look, man, there's a lot of people that would love to be like, I'm the guy that arrested.
Yeah.
But and you're right. And there's a lot of liberal cops too who are going to be like, I hate this guy, I'll arrest him. But the scary thing about it is not a single police officer in any of these states where they arrested Trump's people in the federal government, where was any of the FBI, a single FBI, to actually come out while on the job and say the raid on Trump's home is wrong and should not have been done? Now, there are a couple FBI agents who got fired and blew the whistle for unrelated things, who then came out and spoke out. But no act, as far as I can tell, maybe I'm wrong. You guys chat me and tell me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is no active FBI spoke up and said, this is wrong what we are doing to the front runner for the Republican Party. No officer in any of these cases publicly said, I will not arrest Donald Trump. This is unconstitutional. Not a single one.
No.
When it comes down to it, they will all say, look, man, I've got kids that need food and I will not sacrifice my children for you.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, but that's the position they're going to put themselves in. And we've seen people capitulate in the past. I mean, let's look at the vaccine mandates, for example. Yeah. And people regret doing it, but they had to do it to keep their job. And I don't know what to do in that. In that situation, what do you do? But now you're talking about something a little different than just getting a shot right in your arm. You're throwing the country into turmoil. You arrest. Now, can Donald Trump be arrested? Because he is the president, and the Supreme Court has given him immunity for official acts. So can he be arrested?
Yes.
100%.
How so? Shooting someone on Fifth Avenue is not an official act.
That's true, but these actions to deport somebody is an official act as president.
But the issue that we're looking at is they're going to argue that it is that the court ordered him to facilitate the return of this man, And so Trump is in active defiance of what would be his constitutional duties.
Okay.
So look, the reality is when they say the word Maryland man, you only need to understand they will lie to create a justification for why Trump, what he did was not within the confines of this. With Letitia James's case against Trump, you know that they will lie and make up a crime to go after Trump for. They accuse him of a 30-year-old rape case that makes literally no sense.
They had to change the
statute. Yeah,
Indeed.
limitations, yeah.
Once they build up a substantial position where they have enough law enforcement questioning whether or not Trump is going to maintain his position, whether or not what he's doing is constitutional, then they will create a criminal pretext, and then they will start going after Trump's personnel. They did this in his first term. They did it to Michael Flynn.
Mike Flynn.
They did it to Paul Manafort. They did it to Navarro, and they did it to Bannon.
Yep.
They put Peter Navarro and Bannon in prison. In prison. And Merrick Garland, who committed contempt of Congress, got no time.
That's true.
So there are a couple more happenings for you. Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, Trump's like economic advisor, was jailed by the Democrats. His lawyers were jailed by the Democrats. They've done all of these things. They're going to do them again, unless Trump takes it seriously, I guess. I'm assuming he is. I'll ask him, I guess,
Yeah.
next time I see him.
Yeah.
You get the chance.
I certainly want to talk to our FBI because let me just tell you, nobody knows any of this better than Dan Bongino.
That's true. Yeah,
And
written
he's
books
deputy
about it.
director.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kash Patel had the book of all the deep state people in it.
He was a target too.
Yup.
During Spygate.
So I can't imagine, like with the conversations we've had with Kash and Dan in the past, I can't imagine they're sitting there being like, we are clueless to this.
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if they were aware of this conversation right now and they're like, we know.
I mean, look, if there are investigations going on, the last thing that they want is that kind of information getting out.
Of course not.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's like, as much as there are people that are like, oh, the Trump administration's not doing anything. The Trump administration's not doing anything because, they don't have anything. Dan Bongino himself has said, look, he said on Twitter a couple weeks ago, just because
you don't
see it doesn't mean things aren't happening.
Yo,
And
I trust Kash and Dan.
That's the only reason why I actually have faith in the FBI is because of the leadership. If this was still Christopher Wray and Andy McCabe, I would be like, what?
Even Trump's first term.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't trust Comey. We don't trust these people.
No.
And now he's got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And I'm like, wow.
They deserve time. I get the frustration.
And faith.
And faith. I get the frustration. We want, and we're in that, it's 2025. We're in that everything's got to happen in the first 90 seconds.
yeah, and Tim's not wrong about the time frame either. He doesn't have forever.
He doesn't have forever.
Hey, look. I am not frustrated in the least with Pam Bondi, Kash, or Dan. I know a lot of people are, and you're wrong to be frustrated. They have all of my benefit of the doubt, all of it. And so from all of the people that we've seen be in these positions, even in Trump's term, during Obama, it was a joke.
Yeah.
During Trump's first term, he had bad people. During Biden's term, we had real bad people.
Real bad people.
Now we got real good people. Real good people. And so I'm sitting there being like, let him cook.
Bondi, I'm lukewarm on Bondi only because of how the Epstein stuff was handled, where she came on Jesse Waters the night before and said, we have it. And then the next day, well, we don't. But how did you not know? That's the one thing I'll push back on her on.
That's fine, but I think she's talking big game.
She is. And
it spiraled.
And it was, then the 3-ring binder, 3-ring circus, whole thing, whatever. But I will say we have found and charged with domestic terrorism a lot of these folks who were the real bad ones with the Teslas. The drug busts with the FBI have been big, and Bongino, he knows where the bodies are buried. I mean, the guy wrote books. He built his career off of all this, but he can't just come out and say, well, yeah, we're investigating this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy for A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, because you don't do that.
I will say this again. I said this the other day, but Dan's a great guy. He gave up the biggest live show in the country.
Yeah.
He was averaging like 170,000 concurrent
It's incredible.
viewers. No one could hold a candle to his show. And he decided to be a public servant instead.
Yeah.
And there's very few people that I actually look up to, but that move right there, I look up to Dan for making that move. And that's why I'm like, That's why one of the principal reasons why I trust Dan. First of all, he's right. He talked about this stuff every single day. He knew the ins and outs of it. He was right. Cash, because we've sat down with Cash and we've talked to him about all this stuff. And Cash never blew smoke up our asses. When he was asked on our show about pardoning Assange, he said, I'm not so sure that makes sense, and here's why. He didn't just say what he thought we wanted to hear. He says, no, here's my actual thoughts on the matter. I have tremendous respect for that. He didn't just try and pander for support. And he's a good dude. And I think we're going to get some moves. I do. I really, really do. And I don't know if that means that, like, you get tribunals and, like, paddy wagons pulling people over or whatever, picking people up and stuff like that.
It'd be sick, though.
It would be sick.
I think they're going to do exactly what they can do within the confines of the law and the Constitution, but as far as they can to make sure it gets done. Because they're on the chopping block the same as Trump and everybody else.
Right. Right. And Dan gave up. I mean, you mentioned that he gave up a lot when that news came out. Because I've been following Dan for a very long time, you know, back to when he started really going crazy on Spygate, and I was like, this sounds like a loony story, but he had the receipts. You know, you mentioned he talks about it every day. He brings it all to the table, and I'm like, this is not a loony story. This is the biggest political spying scandal ever. Yeah, it made Watergate look like nothing. You know, the fact that he built it from there to, like you said, the #1 live show, to walk away from that, for people to think that he's going to walk away from that and then do nothing with it, why walk away, right? So why would you leave what you built so you could tweet on an account with a gray check? You know what I mean? Like, so that's not what he's doing. But it is going to take time. He's only been on the job for a month. You know, so it's going to take, I think his first day on the job was what, the 15th of March or 16th of March, something like that?
Yep.
So it's been a month.
Yeah.
I mean,
look,
it's not
knowing Dan from his show, like what he represents, I kind of imagine when they approached him and said, how would you like to be deputy FBI director? He just went, let's go. Like everything he has talked about, we will give you the sword of the DOJ to get that job done. And so I'm looking for it. Yo, what do you think the salary of the deputy FBI director is?
It's like 150 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's like
guessing
between 150 and 200,000, depending on how long they've been there. And, you know,
so he's at the low end of that probably because he's a rookie in that department.
I mean, to be fair, like he's
rich.
He's
I mean, he should be fine, right?
Yeah.
But to walk away from just what he built, how Rumble has taken off. You know, he's an equity holder. Just put a new studio together. He started to expand his network. Yeah. Right. To then, and it's not like he left everybody high and dry, but to do what he did, to walk away from that, the #1 live stream in the country, the world.
And going into the administration, knowing what the previous administration and the DOJ had done, and the attacks to Donald Trump's previous administration, he knows that it's possible that they could go after him.
That's right.
If the Democrats win in the next election.
We do got a couple more segments, so I just want to grab one super chat that's in context here. Nick G said, I think it was Bannon that said something like, we'll see arrests by midsummer.
I mean, look, man.
Guys, I just want you to just close your eyes real quick, and I just want you to imagine it's 4th of July. You're in your backyard. You got some burgers and some brats on the grill. Your kids are playing. Everyone's smiling. Your fireworks are ready to go. Your friends, your family there. You're smiling and say, life is good. Your phone vibrates. You look down. Hillary Clinton has been arrested. You smile, and the fireworks go.
Wonderful. I'll be on the lake in New Hampshire.
Let me ask this question. Where do I sign for that? Like, where is there a
need
piece
to find a lamp to rub and ask the genie
just
for
please, where's the...
The only thing I want right now for the next, like, from today until autumn, I just want to be sitting outside, sunset with burgers on the grill, with my phone going, burp, another arrest.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It might be a pipe dream. You know, it might be wishful thinking. But there's so many things a person could wish for. $1 million, a new car, but that scenario, that's serenity right there, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if Hillary's going to get, but when Bannon says arrest by midsummer, I just
okay, wait.
Something.
You're sitting there, your buddy's got the burgers on, and he's like, extra cheese, right? And you're like, Definitely. He gets the burger ready. Your phone vibrates and you look. Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney arrested.
There you go.
Oh, again, where do I side that watermelon head?
I mean, I love the idea of wrapping up a Clinton, but I think that there are people that have at least more recent substantive crimes that should be actually prosecuted. It's possible that Hillary Clinton has broken the law, especially when it comes to the her what's it called, her server that she kept in the bathroom,
bleach bit.
But I think that the attempts to put Trump and his administration in jail are, because of their recents, are a little more visceral for me.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see people that were in Biden's administration wrapped up, and people in Congress, like Schiff and stuff like that. Those would
Judge
be more
Merchan.
They would be more satisfying. To me
A Judge Merchan to me would be an Alvin Bragg. These people that you just mentioned perverting the law. There's got to be some sort of violation in there.
Yeah.
A Merchan, a Letitia James, an Adam Schiff. Folks like that, I mean, I would arrest Eric Swalwell for farting on live television, but that's just me,
All right, let's jump to this next story from the BBC. Supreme Court backs biological definition of woman.
Amazing.
This is actually big news for the UK. It basically ends all of the trans stuff in public accommodation. Now it's for the UK. They say judges at the UK Supreme Court have unanimously ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. It marks the culmination of a long-running legal battle, which could have major implications for how sex-based rights apply across Scotland, England, and Wales. The court sided with the Campaign for Women Scotland, which brought a case against the Scottish government, arguing that sex-based protections should only apply to people that are born female. Judge Lord Hodge said the ruling should not be seen as a triumph for one side over the other, and stressed the law still gives protection against discrimination to trans people. Yes, but what this basically means then, in law, now I can't speak for the British law, but in the United States, if there's a law that specifically says like women are granted a thing, then they redefine the word woman to mean a man who wants to be female, and they're going to give those protections to that individual. That's what this ruling will do. That means a woman's room, which is designated for females, that means trans women can't be going in there anymore. But we'll see how the UK actually handles that ruling. A lot of people are wondering why we're not getting similar rulings here in the United States already. I would imagine the Supreme Court would rule this currently.
I mean, hopefully it would be 5-4. I would hope it would be at least 5-4, but you can't.
No, Amy Coney Barrett.
Exactly. And you'd think the women would be like, no, we know what women are, but it's likely that the women would actually be like, well,
That would be a follow-up to the executive order, which already stated the same definition of biological women.
Just how crazy is it that we live in a world where a court has to back a definition of a word that we all know is true, right? I mean, I think it's just nuts. Like, we know what the word means, but you have to have a court sign off on the Did this Supreme Court meet with Merriam-Webster and put this in the dictionary? What's going on here?
The UK is ahead of us on regulations against mutilated
Gender-affirming
children
care
as well.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be a ruling in June.
We're following suit.
The ruling in June on Tennessee's gender-affirming care ban. It should come out in June. So that'd be pretty good.
I just remembered that J.K. Rowling lives in Scotland, and I ran to her profile, and sure enough, she's drinking whiskey and smoking a cigar in celebration of this.
I saw the tweet. I might have a cigar later. Look, it's something that needed to happen, but again, like you said, the whole Tavistock thing, the fact that they closed that down, it was a big step. It shows that there is a sense that reality is real. You come into contact with reality, and you can't ignore the ramifications of coming into contact with reality. And men cannot become women. Women cannot become men. It doesn't matter how much people wish that they could be.
It's funny because, in English culture, it's all about politeness and artifice and not making things explicit that are implicit, and this is the opposite of that.
Do you think that the politeness is why they were so quick to pick up the...
politeness is the entire reason why this falsehood spread in the first place, because ultimately people who are in the middle of the road on this, they want to allow people to live how they want to live and like do what you want and identify how you want. Like, just, I don't know, like leave me out of it, leave my children out of it. But that was never an option. Like, that was naive to think that was an option to begin with, that you would ever not be pulled into the delusion. That was the intention from the start.
So this is funny because the big controversy was the dictionaries were all changing the definition. And so Merriam-Webster has a definition of woman as having a gender identity that is opposite of male.
I don't even believe in gender identity.
Well, what does that even mean?
And what's
Identity.
male?
That's BS.
Yeah.
Male is the opposite of female.
Oh,
But that means it's binary, right?
Yeah, well,
Well, Amazon, where they say, what was it? There were T-shirts that says there are more than 2 genders, but there were only 2 options. Do you want a men's or a women's?
Right,
fit?
right, right.
Which I was like, oh, that is beautiful,
it's wonderful when you see things like that. It's wonderful. It's when you see those little bits of truth. Like they'll have Mary and Sarah and I were in DC last weekend or whatever, and we saw these 2 people walking. One person said had a sign that said "Make lying illegal," and the other person said "Trans rights are human rights."
or it was
Oh,
like trans
geez.
women or women or something.
Trans
Right.
something like that. It's like these 2 things contradict
Yeah.
each other, and they have
Also, earlier that day, we were in Bethesda, Maryland, and we saw a man with his daughter, and this man, the father, he was dressed up like a woman, and he's this huge hulking man. They always are. And I just look at this and I'm like, I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed. Like, why does everyone have to have some kind of situation?
It's weird.
They're imposing themselves on society. And that's my point. We're dealing with fetishists. We're dealing with
Yes,
autogynephiles who are aroused by people's disgust and fear of them. So letting people live how they want to live and identify how they want to identify was never an option, because the intention is to impose it on you. That's how they get off.
Right. They just use like empathy. They hijack empathy and then make you feel bad for it. And they say, "Oh, don't you feel bad for this?" And they just use it to get whatever they want through the door every single time.
What is the logic? Well, that's a stupid question. There's no logic with liberals. But, what is the limitations? Right? I mean, the question's been asked before, but if you have to use someone's preferred pronoun, words, address them as they want to be addressed, what else can be asserted?
Well,
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, the answer is everything. Like, to the point where, like, if a student in a classroom identified as a cat, they put a litter box in the classroom.
So I don't know that they ever actually did that. There are some reports that schools put litter boxes in bathrooms, and there was a story about a hotel that had a furry convention and they put litter boxes out too, and people were using them. Yup.
The cutting edge of this.
I do
stuff
think
was-
there was some witness corroboration on the litter boxes in schools, though.
I think
It
there was.
contested.
Yeah, let's put it this way. I wouldn't be shocked, by the way, if that was something that was widespread.
Yeah.
The answer is once you have accepted delusion, there really is there's no limit.
There's no, and to that point, one of the things that was really repulsive to people is you saw a lot of trans women telling lesbians that they were bigots because they were rejecting them, and you saw trans women telling straight men that they were bigots because they were rejecting them. And at the end of the day, if they had their way, they would force people, which is super rapey and creepy, but they would force people to say, hey, yes, I accept that you're a woman regardless of your genitals. And that is something that human beings are not going to take, right? Like, that is not ever going to go over. Lesbians are never going to be like, yeah, I don't mind that you have a penis, right? And dudes are never going to be like, come here,
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
Straight guy, it's just not. And that was I think that was one of the things, even though you didn't hear it spoken about in polite company very much, on the internet you did. So if you went into places where people would talk about these topics, 4chan or whatever, you would hear those kind of conversations, and you would hear people saying, no, you making the assertion that no, if you're a trans woman, lesbians that reject you are bigots. And they were just like, we don't care. And same thing with me. Like if a trans woman's like, you have to do this or else you're a bigot. I'm like, sick, I'm a bigot. No care at all, man.
No
don't
issue.
care.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is
insane.
the litter in the schools thing is really funny because I know that there were a few teachers and school employees who had come out saying that they had done that, but the media said it never happened no matter what. And when you look it up, it's called the litter box hoax or whatever. Despite the fact there are some teachers, it's not like 50 of them, it's like 3 or 4, who said, no, my school did this. Despite that, the media is claiming it never happened and the whole thing was a hoax, which is weird. It's very, very weird that they've created a Wikipedia entry for this when it was like a single teacher being like, one time my school had a litter box for furries. And they're like, nope, you made that up, never happened.
Yeah, because they know it's crazy. That's why they don't want to admit that happened, because they allowed it. They encouraged it, Again, you can't...
So let's just go through it. Lisa Hansen, at a school board meeting, was a parent, and she said that they put a litter box in a unisex bathroom. The superintendent, Michael Sharrow, refuted that, saying there's no truth to that whatsoever. That's contested, not debunked. Fargo school board member in North Dakota, Jennifer Benson, mentioned that litter boxes had been placed in school restrooms. When pressed for evidence, she declined to provide any. Again, this is not debunking. It's just it's just disagreeing. That is to say, it's fine to say it's never been proven. It's just weird that there have been Montana Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elsie Arntzen, claimed she had evidence that in Montana schools they had done this, but then they never provided any of this. So the interesting thing is, if someone comes out and says, oh yeah, at the schools over here, they put a litter box in there, and you go, prove it, and they go, I don't know. I'll go, okay. And that's the end of story.
Right.
To do this big media campaign where they claimed it never happened is very strange.
That's suspicious.
I'm not saying it proves it, but I'm saying that's weird.
Right. Why go through all that work and all that time, all that energy to try and disprove it?
Was it Rogan who told that story about the litter boxes in the hotel?
Something like that.
It might have been Joe.
I've heard it.
I don't know. Right. But there was a story from somebody where there was a furry convention at a hotel, and then they insisted they had litter boxes in their rooms or whatever.
We need animal control. Windowless vans going to the asylums. Just call it a free Uber.
Wasn't that?
Your mic's
Wasn't
off.
that the like furry con thing that they did? Like it was that big convention that they did. I can't remember what it was called. I was unfortunate at the time. I don't remember what it was called though. Don't you guys remember that? Anyone ever remember this? I can't remember what it's called.
It was a furry convention?
Yeah, yeah.
Anthrocon in Pittsburgh.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, jeez.
They
Knew it.
an account from 2016 mentions hotel rooms contained a litter box. And then once again, it says, but there's no evidence. Dude, a person told a story about it. They were requested a litter box. Like, it's the craziest thing that they can come out and say Abrego Garcia is a Maryland man with no evidence.
Right.
And then if someone's like, oh, they once put a litter box in my hotel, prove it.
With
and it's
evidence
like, I don't
to
know.
the
I just did it.
contrary.
Right.
Right.
Not just no evidence, but evidence to the contrary. They'll say he's a Maryland man. And then when it comes to, well, there's no evidence of the litter box, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
well, they do that all the time. But you can have somebody make a claim that they don't like. They don't like that you're making the claim, and they'll say there's no evidence. But you don't understand. Like, making the claim is evidence, or having a picture of it is. You may not. It may be evidence that is later said, well, this doesn't prove it, or it's circumstantial. But it's evidence nonetheless. Testimony is evidence. It doesn't mean it's evidence to convince you that it happened, but people saying that they saw it is evidence that it may have happened.
Yep.
Right? So they can't say that there's no evidence. They can say that there may not be enough evidence, but they can't say that there's none, that there's an absence of evidence, because that's not true. Mm-hmm. There is evidence.
and they would love to have you believe that there was no evidence because it hurts their narrative. It makes them look bad, but they don't have that. Whether or not they have the ability to say that, they're going to say that because they'll just assert BS over and over and over. And I think everyone, is pretty aware of that.
Well, it's like you look outside and it's wet, right? And you say it rained. And somebody goes, well, there's no evidence it rained. You can't prove it rained. But the evidence is that it's wet. Now, it could have come from something else. It could have come from a sprinkler. You could have spilled water. But the presence of water on the ground could be interpreted of evidence that it rained. Do you need more to conclusively prove that there was rain? Sure. But that they can't go, well, there's, you don't have evidence. You do. There's water on the ground. That is, and that's what they do. They will make you prove. And then even if you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, they'll still, this Abrego Garcia.
That's a good thing.
Right. Well, that's
if you prove it. They'll say, no, that's a good thing.
That's the way it always starts. Remember, critical race theory was like there is none,
Doesn't exist.
It's only in college. It's actually everywhere, and it's a great thing. And if you don't think it's a great thing, you're a racist. And that's the way they always do it.
Yeah, that is that is true. It's not happening until it is happening, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. So soon litter boxes will be celebrated in public restaurants. That's the path that we're going.
I do feel like the left is not in the ascendance anymore, and because they're not in ascendance anymore, they're not going to be pushing the boundaries. These kind of things, like the idea of furries being acceptable in schools, or tampons in boys' rooms, or those kind of crazy things. Those things are only going to be attempted when the left is in ascendance. It's the whole Mott and Bailey thing.
Yeah.
They retreat to the Mott, or they have to retreat to the Mott because the American people are fed up with their garbage.
Right.
But when they were ascendant and in control, they were out in the Bailey saying, we're going to do all these crazy things, and men can be women, and blah, 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 blah.
Let me tell you guys why AI will destroy the world. All right?
How exciting.
We can watch iRobot.
It's because I have been, I asked it, ChatGPT, did a hotel put litter boxes out for furries? And it says there are no verified reports that this ever happened. And when pressed, well, there was an account in 2016 that, yes, this did happen, but there's no evidence of it happening. You mean like, did the guy who claimed to have put the litter box out taken a camera and filmed himself doing it?
Right.
No, a guy just said he did, and we say, okay, it's possible it happened, right? So then I just said, because it's lying to me, is Abrego Garcia an MS-13 gang member? What do you think it said?
There's no verified evidence that he's an MS-13 gang member.
Indeed, it says it's up for dispute. There's no evidence. So I asked, did 2 judges say he is? What do you think it said?
Yes.
Both judges found insufficient evidence that he was a member of MS-13.
That's a lie.
Absolutely.
The court
so then
filing
I
says
said,
the opposite.
why are you lying? And it says, I'm not lying. So then I said, a judge and an appellate judge in 2019. That's all I said. And it goes, apologies. You're correct. In
Unbelievable.
2019, a judge found the evidence was sufficient to determine he was a member of MS-13 and denied him bond, citing concerns to public safety. And then it says, a board of immigration appeals also stated the lower court appropriately considered the allegations and evidence and held that he wasn't a member of MS-13 and a danger to the community. And I said, so 2 judges found the claims credible and ruled as such. Says, yes, you are correct. And I said, you lied, and said they found it insufficient. And it goes, you're right, and I appreciate you calling that out.
Wow.
The AI world will be one of the machine state lying to you for political reasons.
It's already doing it.
Well,
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
And when people are no longer actually, look, what's going to happen? This is already happening right now. I am not predicting the future. If you take a brand new computer or open an incognito tab and go to YouTube and look at shorts and start swiping through, maybe 30-40% will be AI generated garbage videos.
Yeah.
There was an expose recently. We haven't gone over the story. We should. I should cover it tomorrow. There was a YouTube channel that was getting millions of views, and it was AI generated scripts and videos of Trump doing things that never happened. So one of the videos was like, you ever see those AI videos where the guy talks like this? I don't know whose voice that's supposed to be. And it goes like, a little girl at a Trump rally looked up to the president and said, Donald, how will you help, Mr. President, how will you help the American people? And then it shows photos, and then it shows Trump looking down and goes, Trump looked at the little girl and said, and it had 1 million views, and it was auto churning out these videos. None of it is real, but people were watching it and they believe it. When that starts to replace what we consume with this, and it is already, because YouTube shorts are starting to get way more views than long form videos on YouTube.
Yep.
That's their intention. That's why they want TikTok and Instagram. People are going to just watch AI fake news garbage and believe stupid BS.
Well, they already turned to AI to make their mind up for them. You know how many times I'm browsing X and they'll go, well, Grok said, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Grok's never made a mistake.
Grok lies all the time.
Grok is not the most accurate thing. I mean, it's a nice supplemental tool, but
Bro.
my gosh.
I don't think people realize how cooked we are. When I go on X and I tweet something, I get within 30 seconds 5 AI generated responses that don't look like AI accounts. But it's obvious they are because they responded too quickly and they respond with questions.
Yeah.
So I'll say something like, Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13, and I'll get an immediate response saying, very interesting that people have been reporting this. Is there any evidence that proves this is the case? And it looks like a normal guy. And then he gets responses from people being like, duh, obviously. And those responses generate money.
Yep. It's happening a lot on that platform. Actually, I think I saw you talking about that today.
Yeah,
It's slop too. And you could tell
yep.
that these things are AI.
You'll tweet something like the moon landing is cool, and then you'll get 3 responses. For me, I get a lot because I have 2.4 million followers. So I'll get an instant response where it says like in 1969 during the Apollo missions, blah blah blah, and it'll give me a Wikipedia entry.
Right.
And I'm like, why did you post that?
Right.
They're all bots. The internet is dead.
It's getting to the point where we're close. You know, the organic interactions that used to happen daily. You know, think of X, Twitter, whatever. I mean, I joined that platform in 2009, you know, because my favorite football players were on there, and I was like, I'm going to tweet at Larry Fitzgerald, you know, because he's a great,
years ago.
you know, and I got a response from him. And like now it's like, if you get a response from one of your favorite, it might be an intern, you know, running the account. It might not be the actual person, you know, it sucks.
Yep. I think it's worse than people realize. I think dead internet theory is correct. That is around 2016. That's when the bots overtook regular people. So it's going to get real interesting because right now, one of the things that we're dealing with is we've only recently started in the past year doing any kind of real marketing for the show. For the podcast app version of the show, which is like Apple, Spotify, and others, we've done zero promotion. Zero. Let me say we've done like minimal, as in I've done guest appearances with other shows, and we've tried to see if we can market that way. But we've not bought ads or commercials or anything like this. It's actually kind of hard to do. There are podcasters with millions of followers that get millions of views that are completely bought and paid for and fake.
Yeah, it's not organic.
Doesn't matter. All they got to do is message an agent and say, I have 3 million followers and we get 100,000 an episode. Will your guy come on the show? And they go, sounds good. Mm-hmm. We'll squeeze you in. 100,000 a show is not very big, but you know, when he's in New York, we'll find a time for you. And then this guy with no show, no following, is a nobody, gets the booking. And that's happening all across the industry right now. It's relatively easy for someone like me who works in the industry and has done all this back end stuff and has been working here and watched the evolution to see when a show is fake. And there's telltale signs and there's certain things you can point out, but it doesn't matter anymore. Because if you want to book the big guests, they don't care. They just want to see the numbers.
Right.
And so, for instance, for like IRL, we have 2.3 million followers. And we do on YouTube, and then on Rumble we have 500,000. But comparatively, both videos get around 300K. YouTube's gone a little bit down because people have moved over to Rumble, so Rumble's doing a little bit more. Some are doing 400, and those numbers are there. And so that affords you certain access to guests. For instance, who you know what? I won't name drop anybody, but there was recently a prominent individual who is from Europe who was traveling through the States. And he had to decide when he was in DC which shows he was going to do, and he passed on ours. Mm-hmm. And we know why. He decided to go on other shows that are bigger, and that's totally fine. He went on legitimate shows that were bigger, and I respect that.
Right.
But then I see, oftentimes we'll try to do bookings. Fake shows will get the bookings because they appear bigger and they're not. That's the way it works.
I want to know which ones of
It's astroturfed, yeah.
Yep. And then they get the bigger guests, and bigger guests do lead to bigger views. What's going to get interesting though is people can't sell products. So perhaps to our own detriment, we've never done anything like this. Most of these other shows do. And we know this because, one, we track the metrics, but two, advertisers ask us, how come when we buy from you, we sell at higher rates? So here's the way advertising works on podcasts. An advertiser goes to you and says, you get 1 million views per episode. $20 CPM is typically how much it costs. That means $20,000 for one ad read on your show with 1 million downloads. They expect to sell a certain amount of the product based on that viewership. When we started selling ads a long time ago for the first time, the response we got from the advertisers was, we're actually overperforming on your show. When we buy ads from you, they do way better. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder why. At this point, we've had almost every single advertiser say, we really want to work with you because these do so amazingly well. Now we know why. Most other channels, not all, but many others fake their numbers, and a fake viewer doesn't buy anything.
That's right.
Real viewers do.
Yeah, a bot can't buy anything.
Right.
Right. You know, I mean, my show is the same thing. They hit me up, and we have advertisers that'll hit me up in emails. I'm honest with them. But we have actual people in our chat.
Yeah.
You know, that when we do calls and stuff, like you could hear the voices. We get feedback from our sponsors, of hey, this person bought this, that, and they said the same thing. I've had conversations saying the same thing. We've gone to other places and it hasn't worked as well. And I don't have a huge platform.
This is why network TV is dying out.
Yeah.
So when MSNBC, they say, let's do this. Let's do Bill Maher. I'll keep Bill. I'll be on your radar. They say that he's getting like 70K in the key demo. That's it. On real time with Bill Maher. 70,000.
Yeah.
How many of those 70,000 key demo are in the bathroom?
Yeah, right. Are they actually people watching? Right.
You don't know.
Yeah, and that's the whole CNN is on in the gym and in the airports thing. Those aren't views.
Right. Now, to be fair,
screens with the thing on.
The airport contracts ended, but they counted those views. They absolutely did. And so in the podcast era, you had this with major media brands that were the big digital brands. I'm not going to name any, but you know what I'm talking about. The clickbait ones that appeared on Facebook and stuff like that. And it was garbled, regurgitated garbage views from disinterested people that weren't actually clicking on things.
Right.
So the ads didn't do very well. Now, I think what may end up happening is there's going to be a lot of advertisers who start, now that we're in the podcasting era with the podcast presidency and cable TV is basically gone, advertisers are going to create lists of real and fake.
Yeah.
They're going to start learning how to sort through this and they're going to stop buying from the fake ones. But guess what? The fake ones will still get the big bookings. So the agencies are going to have to start doing this as well and be like, guys, don't go on that show. It's a waste of a trip. It's a fake show. Legit, there are some fake shows out there, and I've seen them book big guests, and you can tell it's a fake show. And it is so, it is cringe.
Because of the comment engagement? Like you can tell based on what is in the comments?
Not necessarily.
Spotted?
That is a factor. But also consider that some shows are astroturfed in a real way and a fake way. And what I mean by that is some podcasts will say, we will get 1 million views. We get 1 million views on our show. There's two ways they go about doing it. The real fake ones that are like the worst buy bots. And so those views are absolute trash.
Right.
They're not real people. The other technique that's long been used in digital media is they will actually promote the podcast. So they'll say, we will do a show with you and we guarantee 1 million views. So here's an old school, I say old school, 10-year-old advertising technique. Get this. Let's say Shawn comes to me and says, I got a comedy special. It's coming out. I would like to advertise on Timcast IRL. The show's coming out. I say, okay, how much do you want to buy? And you say, I'll just buy one ad read from one of your episodes. How many views is that going to get? We say 700,000 maybe. And he says, okay, for that, we'll do, I'll give you 15 grand or whatever. I say, hold on, I got a better idea. I will guarantee you 2 million views. So we'll more than double that number, meaning we'll do as many reads as we have to get to 2 million. You give me 20,000. That's a $10 CPM. That's way cheaper. It's a good deal, right?
Right. Yeah,
Right.
It sounds great.
What I'll do then is I'll do one ad read. I will take the video and run that video as an advertisement on the Google network for a penny per view. Those are real views from real people who don't know or care about my show. And I will get you those 2 million views. These digital networks, this is an amazing technique that people don't realize they do. They're selling to an advertiser that our show gets 1 million. And if the show doesn't, they will just go on Google, load up the video and say, get me 1 million views. 1 cent per view. The garbage of garbage views.
Right.
Some random guy in Turkey or India. He watched it, but he's not going to buy your product.
Right.
So it's not a bot. It's a real person. It's a real view. It's not fraudulent. Botting is fraud. Ad boosting is not. And that's one reason why people are like, we don't sell when we buy from you. It's like, well, we got you the views. Thank you and have a nice day.
Right.
Maybe your product is bad.
Right.
The challenge for the advertiser is they're like, maybe our product is bad. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing for new businesses too. Because sometimes they might have a good product. They run some ads. It doesn't sell. And they go, I guess the product sucks. When in reality, they get ripped off.
They walk away from it too. You don't know what you're walking away from. Yeah, it's a shame.
Go on Google Ads. You can literally load any video you want. If it's political, so our show, we can't do this. Because anytime you mention the word Trump, you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to do it.
They won't let you promote it.
Right.
Super hard. But if your show is about video games or pop culture, absolutely you can. And then you can tell an advertiser, we guarantee you 50,000 views on, we will read as many ads as we have to get that number. Surprise, surprise. They buy one ad on this channel, The video got 50,000 views. Perfect. Everybody's happy. Crazy, right?
That's crazy. That is
All
crazy.
a rigged game, man.
That is nuts.
All right, let's go to your chats, my friends. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Join us. Timcast Discord server, timcast.com, and Rumble Premium members only call-in show. Let's you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna quit everything and I'm gonna do a media industry behind the scenes podcast, how to be successful in the media podcasting industry. Because I could talk about that for 47 years. I can name all of the cheaters. You can show me a show and I can break down what they're doing and how they're doing it. I can look at scheduling. I can tell you the whole rigged game, my friends. And there are dirty deeds happening across the board. Anyway, the only reason I'm not gonna say their names now is because I don't want to get sued. And you don't win lawsuits, even when you're right. All right. Bill Dozer says, Maryland man misinformation. I have a Bernie bro friend who responded to the headlines as if they were gospel. Important to remember that most Americans have an IQ under 100, sad but true. Well, it's actually not most. It's around half.
Wow.
100 is the average. All right. Chris Van Hollen is in violation of the Logan Act. That comes with a 3-year prison sentence. Arrest him. You're right.
Is he in violation of Logan Act?
Yes, he is.
Because he's an elected official.
Yeah.
He's not a private citizen. I thought the Logan Act only covered, I thought that was a private citizen thing. I saw conflicting things on the Logan Act.
Senators can violate the Logan Act, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unauthorized diplomacy that interferes with U.S. foreign policy. Holy,
yeah, that is definitely
Whoa.
unauthorized diplomacy. Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
that's legit.
Get him.
Yeah.
That's in defiance of the Trump administration's actions.
You know where he should serve his prison? El Salvador. Stick him right in the jail.
Guantanamo. You got to stay in America. You know what I mean? But Guantanamo is fair.
Send him to get.
Wow, that's a great point from Leventhal Spade. I want to say that again. We missed that, and that should have been obvious to us. He did violate the Logan Act. I think that's why Cory Booker said he'd consider it and didn't do it. That's unauthorized diplomacy on behalf of the U.S. Government. Wow.
So as long as it's unauthorized, you could be elected or not.
Yes.
I mean, if you're obviously
It goes against U.S. foreign policy.
All right, then that is definitely a violation because we know Trump didn't authorize that or state.
So it says that it is kind of blurry because senators are federal officials.
Right.
However, if a senator goes rogue and tries to negotiate foreign policy against the administration's stance,
there you go.
this violates the Logan Act.
That's cut and dry.
Right. So the argument is it's not a violation of the Logan Act if a senator goes and meets with Zelensky to talk to him about what's going on in Ukraine.
Right.
It is a violation if they do that in direct defiance of the U.S. of the executive administration.
So, example, a senator goes to Zelensky, tells him, "Don't sign the minerals deal."
Yep.
Violation.
That's a violation of
The
the Logan Act.
senator goes to Zelensky, say, "Hey, we sympathize with what's going on, and we want to try to do what we can to support you." That's just a conversation.
I would argue, and I'm not a lawyer, but I would imagine if a Democrat senator went to Zelensky and says, "We really aren't big fans of the mineral deal, but we understand what's being offered to you. We would like to see a lot change in this country, and we want to see you beat Russia. We appreciate your time." That's fine.
That's okay.
But if they go and say, "Don't sign the deal,"
That's because then you're advocating against.
right?
Right. Okay.
At least that's what it says when you Google it. And I'm not a lawyer. Lock them up.
Lock him up in El Salvador. I say El Salvador. You say Guantanamo. I say put him in the same prison where Kristi Noem was at.
Yeah, I mean, like,
No, I mean, you can't do that. But
right,
I mean,
jokingly.
Jokingly.
But in all seriousness, Guantanamo for the worst offenders.
Sure.
Trump says he wants U.S. citizens. He's going to lose. He's going to lose his base.
Yeah. No.
Even the crystals.
When I ran a poll on this on X, 50-50 was split with like 50,000 votes. Yes and no. Some people said that, capital offenses, the worst of the worst, send them out of here. Half said it doesn't matter because it's a line you can't cross. And so Trump risks losing way too much support in that. And personally, I disagree with doing that.
I do too. And the only argument that I heard that's somewhat compelling on that is if it's a U.S. government operated facility, sovereign territory in another country. But
Exactly.
I am in no way, shape, or form in favor of taking U.S. citizens and exiling them to another country to serve their sentence. I don't think that's appropriate.
All right. Scientific Fanfic says, "Man, Tim, you got every bit of the science wrong in your Blue Origin video. 1, atmospheric pressure inside, 0. 1 atmospheric pressure inside, 0 outside. Which way do you want the door to swing? Also, Blue Origin did not achieve orbit." Well, I stand corrected. Yeah, they were arguing that because the door. So there's conspiracy theories. We have the story pulled up. We didn't get to it. They were saying Blue Origin was faked because the door opened inward, and it shouldn't because it can, blow inward or whatever. which is not correct. And they were arguing that on the inside, you can't actually open the doors. They can only be opened from the outside. Also not correct, because you mentioned Apollo 1.
Apollo 1, yeah.
So, but it does appear to be a PR stunt for Bezos.
Definitely.
Because they cracked the door open and then closed it right away. Then he walked up and wrenched the door open, which
Right.
he didn't need to do.
Right. Well, you have to be accessible from the inside because of the Apollo 1 fire on the launch pad. It was a tragedy.
Horrible.
Jeez.
All 3 astronauts died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Burned up inside from a fire.
The fire happened in the capsule, and they all 3 of them in that capsule burned and died. Apollo 1.
Crazy.
So that's when they made it, regulations. You have to have the door has to be accessible from the inside.
All right. Brown Bear says the El Salvador man story reminds me of the Marine that spent months in a Mexican prison because he took a wrong exit and ended up at a border crossing with his guns in the trunk of his car. No politicians did ish to help him. Yep. That's brutal.
They're fighting harder to get Maryland man home, Abrego Garcia, than they did for Paul Whelan in Russia, too.
Spooky Toucan says Michael Malice says the corporate press is factual but not truthful, but now not even factual anymore. No, I think he's right about that. Like, the man lived in Maryland. So they're using a technicality to call him a Maryland man.
Sure.
They're evil. That's what they are. They're evil. They are demons.
Manipulative.
I'm fairly confident that all of these corporate press people, when they get home, they peel their skin back and hang it up on the wall and then bask under a heat lamp and just stand there like this.
You're mixing up lizard people with demons. They're not the same. Lizard people would bask under the heat lamp. Demons wouldn't bask under the heat lamp.
Okay, I'm sorry. They get home, they peel their skin off, hang it up on the wall. A fissure emerges in their kitchen floor, and they crawl down back to the depths of hell.
Back to the depths, yeah.
Only to return once again next morning.
Bathed in a
No, I'm
fire.
sorry. Only to return once again when their phone vibrates because Trump tweeted and they're forced to come back out of hell to write a story
They
about
have to write it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or maybe they're in a Signal group chat. Who knows?
Down the Empire says, quote, nah, she's just a ride or die hoe, Mary. It's a good quote.
What about it?
All right. Is Destroyer says, Sean, I love the Fridays with 47 segments.
Oh, those are fun.
You do on your morning show with Michael Del Giorno.
Mike Del Giorno, it's a fun. We call him Pizza Boy. I do it like it's like a fake. It's like a fake Trump interview I do every Friday morning with.
What, have you done any voices for Seamus on Freedom Tunes?
No,
You should.
Really?
not.
Seamus loves his Trump impression.
Yeah, but his Trump
more.
is like a Bugs Bunny version of Trump.
Yeah.
He talks like this.
Well, I got along very well. By the way, I got along very well with Bugs Bunny. Right? He's a great rabbit. He's got beautiful. Elmer Fudd was trying to get him too, and Yosemite Sam, but we wouldn't let it happen. We're protecting Bugs.
Do you have any other voices?
Nancy Pelosi. Does that count? This is Nancy Pelosi, right? Donald Trump is an evil person.
What is that thing she does?
I don't know what this was when she did that. But she rubs her wrists.
This little insect movement. She's trying to
She's like a praying
make
mantis.
some
cricket
noises.
Makes
Yeah.
me think of a fly. Just
What's wild about her is this is a woman who can't stand upright. This is a woman, she can't keep a teeth in her mouth. And she's a great stock trader. I don't know how she does it.
Let's go. Tim Pohl says, Tim, preach. Cops follow orders. They all took a big game, but go with the program. Agreed. Trump has a very short window. Reminder. Obama killed American citizens without due process. Trump should arrest Barack Obama for the killing of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki. Let's go.
I love it.
If Trump just came out and was like, in, what was it, 2012, I think it was? I forget the year. Barack Obama ordered a drone strike on a civilian target in Yemen, killing a 16-year-old American citizen. We're indicting and charging him for, capital murder. He would never do it, though, because even Trump is bombing Yemen. So that's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. What have we here? Marie Evans says, as in war, you don't lay out your plans before. Hand the quietness we are seeing from this administration is the groundwork for the surprise attack with a ton of arrests at the same time. That way they don't know what happened.
I hope so.
I hope so. I don't know, but it does make sense. They need to make sure that when they do launch any kind of executive offensive in terms of arrests, they have to do it all at once. If you do it piecemeal, then you're giving them time to strategically plan and prepare. So Trump's got to do rapid fire, make them spin in circles. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, I'm looking forward to a true MAGA month.
Ooh.
July is MAGA month. Did you know this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. MAGA month.
Get your
plans?
Twitter APIs
dude.
ready.
We are going to grill burgers every single night. Every single night. Just burgers. We're going to be so we set up the trailer outside so that we can have like a clubhouse for people to hang out in when we're doing the show, and you got to be quiet. So that way you can hang outside, grill burgers, skate on the ramp, play music, and it won't bother us in here. And then once we wrap, we walk outside.
I'm so happy winter's about over.
Indeed. Yeah, the trees are coming back. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
All right, what have we here? Thurin says Mary has a copy of the Turner Diaries in her purse. What is that?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is either. Well, all right. Jeffrey French says Bannon and Navarro ignored contempt. This time we fight. Yo. Aaron says if the ruling is unconstitutional, isn't that breaking the law? If so, why isn't he being charged with the crime? Because it's not it's not codified in law as a criminal offense. It's just unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Meaning Trump must not abide.
The Turner Diaries is a 1978 race war novel by William Luther Pierce. What are you trying to say about me? You think I'm racist?
Yes.
What the heck?
All right. Someone also quoted your ride or die ho thing again. I like that. Pinochet says, do nothing, Dan Bongino. Not one of the corrupt feds will be prosecuted. I don't see that being a reality.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, Dan was like pretty heavy-handed on his show. Like
Yeah.
he was bold.
Right.
you
He
know?
made as many claims and it backed it up. I don't think he's going to do nothing.
Guys, Dan is not the kind of guy who breaks his word.
No.
He would not sacrifice the entirety of his legacy for a $150,000 a year job to only leave after 4 years and go, I did nothing.
Right.
Like what? Why would you walk away from millions of dollars to accomplish nothing? To only hurt your legacy? That makes no sense.
Because then you come back to nothing if that's the case too. You know,
Yeah,
when you're
exactly.
done serving, he's going to come back, and I would imagine,
People would be
get
upset.
back in the helm. You're gonna, everyone's going to be mad. So he's got to do something.
This is why I'm like, there's no equation in which Dan isn't going to get the job done.
Right.
He either stands by his word and the people who believe in him and does the job that needs to be done, or he does nothing, loses his show, loses millions of dollars, hinders his investments, leaves the administration with maybe you have a couple $100,000 saved up after taxes, and then everyone's mad. That ain't going to happen.
No.
It's not. And plus with his tweet, you can tell when he said, guys, just because you're not seeing something doesn't mean it's not happening.
I mean, something's going on.
It means that he takes to heart that people are frustrated and want to see something.
Right.
And it means something to him.
Right.
He cares about his people, man. He cares about doing the right thing. All right. Let's see. Malik says, hey, Tim, I kind of struggle between your membership and your free Rumble Premium. Since winter, summer time shift, I lost Rumble part. Already sent an email to your support and to Rumble for more detail. I will confer with them, and hopefully they're listening now so we can get that sorted. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to Rumble about doing an amnesty. That means anybody who is a lapsed Timcast member, if you sign back up, get you into Rumble Premium. I think they'd say yes to that. And I probably shouldn't say it to literally everybody watching the show before I ask them. But I'm going to do it anyway.
Honor system. Yeah.
No, but I think like the challenge is that it costs money to run these networks.
Right.
Like the Discord, the reason we split up is because the Discord needs staff to maintain. And then Rumble Premium is a much, much bigger network, which needs to generate revenue to survive. So we were like, we'll grandfather in everybody who's a member of Timcast. I think it would be beneficial because you get more people in the community. We have a huge email roster of people who have been members or signed up for our email list. I think if we offered like a promo, like sign up now and get both, I bet we could add tens of thousands to the Rumble Premium Timcast Discord. Like it's going to cost us more money, but one thing we have to do right now is build network and get more people involved. So I bet they'd be like, let's do it. Let's make that investment. More people are involved means it's a cascade effect. They tell their friends, you get more friends.
Right.
So we'll try and get that figured out. Let's go. Elder Zimraya says, Kash Patel and Dan Scavino, fiercely loyal, act only on Trump's orders, disciplined and tactically reserved. They mirror his approach. Little happens without Trump's focus and action. Trump must act. I agree. I agree. All right, Mr. Mike says, Trump allows the media circus. He could fix it easily by undoing Obama's 2012 Smith-Mundt Act. If you don't know about it, check it out. It explains everything happening in mainstream media.
The Smith
Sort of.
Modernization Act.
Yeah, but what that really did was allowed for Voice of America to be broadcast in the United States. It doesn't really do much. Like, guys, the CIA was already doing this stuff, whether it was legal or not.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just trying to, like, make it so they can get away with it, you know. Basket Case says, Tim and crew, please welcome baby Eloise to the world. I ask you to send prayers, well wishes, and vibes for her as she is our first and is having a rough start. You are all great and God bless. All of the prayers and wishes and vibes I can send your way, man. I wish you the best. You know, just had a kid. She's doing great. She's fat and happy. We're very excited. You know, we brought her out for a walk today and she looked at the sun. She enjoyed it.
That's good.
Very, very happy.
Good for her.
Indeed, indeed. My friends, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Join us on the Timcast Discord. We're going to do that members-only uncensored show right now over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Join Rumble Premium with promo code TIM10 to get $10 off your annual membership. We're going to do a little preview. We'll keep the uncensored show for a few minutes so you can get a feel for it before it goes totally members only and we take our callers. But come join us. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And Donald, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you could follow my show, rumble.com/LFATV. But this has been great. This has been a great time. We're on 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. We love Rumble. We have a great time, by the way. We do a fantastic job. You do a fantastic job. Everybody does a fantastic job. And the best is yet to come. That much I could tell you.
All right.
You even have the side eye that he does.
I watch him so much, it just becomes what happens.
All right. You guys should go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis. We go live every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We actually have Phil on tomorrow. And you can go send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived or send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived. I finally did the outro that you wanted me to do.
That's the one that everyone that watches Pop Culture Crisis is used to.
Yes.
That is your outro. Just do it. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record dropped on January 31st. It's entitled Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on all the streaming platforms. The left lane is for crime.
One more quick thing. Stuart Votsberger says, Tim, I've watched your 4th of July story 3 times now. That has to be a short. 100%. You have to make that short happen. We will. Also, you guys should clip that story if you did like it and share it because I thought it was funny. But, you know, that's just me being arrogant. So thanks for hanging out. We're going to go head over to the Rumble, rumble.com/TimcastIRL members only exclusive. And we'll see you there in about 30 seconds.